I'll remind everybody that our meeting is being both broadcast and recorded. The first order of business this evening is the consent agenda on which there are town accountant warrants, minutes to approve from November 25th, gift acceptance from the Mass Trails Conference raffle, $1,155 to go to the Trails Committee account, and the Alcott School Parent Teachers Group, $1,117.55 to go to the Recreation Scholarship Fund. There are a number of special one-day licenses. The first is for Saltbox Kitchen on January 7th from 6 to 9, wine and malt beverage only. On the 13th of January from 4 to 7, wine and malt beverage only. On the 16th of January from 5:30 to 8:30, wine and malt beverage only. And the 21st of January from 5 to 9 p.m., wine and malt beverage only. And the Nature Connection, 54 Walden Street, February 13th from 6 to 9, wine and malt beverage only. And I would entertain a motion.
So move. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Mr. Town Manager.
Because of the holiday, not much of a report, just a reminder that there will be an event honoring Karen Ahern, who's worked for the Concord Free Public Library for, I think, almost as long as I've been alive anyway. So it'll be Thursday, January 2nd, from 3 to 5 at the main branch. So I think the community is invited to come celebrate her long and impactful career here in Concord. And then tomorrow being New Year's Eve, with limited staffing, some offices may be closing early because of limited staffing. I'm not sure which, but just if you have business late in the afternoon on New Year's Eve, just make sure you check to make sure somebody's home.
Okay. Any questions for the Town Manager?
Just, we were commenting before we started on the fire that was so noted
Yes.
throughout many broadcasts, and just wanted to wish both the owners and the owners good luck, but also thank the fire department and all the fire departments that.
Well, certainly, and I was actually, when I got the message, I was obviously out of town, but I got the message, I was monitoring. It's amazing. I was able to watch the news online, and I was in touch with public safety as well as CPW. I think the mutual aid that was on display there was really impressive, and a credit to our surrounding communities. But I will say that if you saw the video, there were a lot of CPW employees there too, and I think public works employees sometimes don't get credit with being first responder employees as well. And I know that there'll be a lot more discussion about what happened, and I know the news reported on issues with water and stuff like that. So I know we're looking at everything. I think I sent a release to the board that the state fire marshal determined the cause, which was the mortar in the chimney had been breached, and there was a fire in the fireplace. And it's really just a tragic accident and loss for the homeowners, and we'll do everything we can to support them. And again, I thank you for extending the gratitude towards our talented team.
Any other?
What day did you say that Karen Ahern celebration is?
It's on Thursday.
Thursday. Yes.
All right. I have limited chair's remarks as well. I wish everybody a Happy New Year. Other than that, that's really all I have. And it is 7:05, so we can move to the first of our three public hearings. This is for a change of officers and directors at the Neshota Country Club located at 1861 Sudbury Road. And a motion.
Move to open the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody here from?
So I did hear from the manager of Neshota that they wouldn't be able to attend or send anybody tonight. But the change of manager or change of officer / director application is really an extension of they had come here in August, I guess, and they had gotten their change of officers approved, but they didn't include on an application a full list of their officers. So the state rejected it and sent it back. So really the only difference is they've finished the rest of the list and submitted it with us.
I moved.
What's your pleasure?
Should we close? Are you ready?
Are there any comments from the public? All right, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, I don't see any reason not to approve this. And so I would certainly entertain a motion to,
Move to approve the application for change of officers, directors at Neshawta Country Club located at 1861 Sudbury Road.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Not quite at the,
I know, we're too fast here.
Let's see.
Well, we're going to go ahead anyway. So I think the next item on our agenda is a public hearing extension of hours on December 31st from 11 PM until 12 AM at Adelita, located at 1200 Main Street.
Move to open the public hearing.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Come on up.
Thanks.
So introduce yourself, please.
My name is Andrew Rich. I'm the general manager of Adelita.
And could you tell us why you're here?
I'm looking to extend just a 1 hour extension just for tomorrow, December 31st, to celebrate New Year's or to be able to serve liquor until midnight tomorrow night so we can just accommodate the public.
So last call before the new year.
Last call we'd like to do at midnight exactly. So kind of do the champagne toast with everyone, kind of have that round and then last call, and then we'd have everyone, I believe, summed up by 12:15 as in accordance with our liquor license.
Well, the reason I'm saying that is it says the application, at least on our agenda, is until 12 AM, serving alcoholic beverages.
Yes, that's what we'd like to do. So we'd serve till 12 a.m. and then I think in accordance with our current liquor license, we have everyone out 15 minutes past that.
Oh, you're talking about leaving, not doing another beverage service after
No,
12 a.m.?
our last beverage would cross the bar at 12 o'clock.
Okay, that's,
All right. Do you have any questions? Any questions from the public? Then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
aye.
Happy New Year. Hope you have a good
we
event
have to-
and you don't
we
get
have
to
to
move.
vote. Oh.
Yes, I know what's going on. And so the next item is for the same sort of issue at Woods Hill Table, so if I could get a motion
But
to,
we still need to move to approve the application.
didn't we?
No, we
No, we
did, we
just
closed the public hearing.
Okay, Linda, could you
Sure.
provide that motion?
Move to approve the application for the extension of hours for the sale of alcoholic beverages on December 31st from 11 until 12 a.m. at Adelita, located at 1200 Main Street.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So our next public hearing is for the same issue, but this time at Woods Hill Table located at 24 Commonwealth Avenue.
Move to open the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hello, my name is Andrew Rich, general manager of Woods Hill Table. We look to extend our liquor license for 1 hour tomorrow, December 31st for New Year's.
Right. Any questions from the board? Are there any questions from the public? Seeing none. Linda?
And may I also request, I know it's not on the docket, and that's actually my fault. I didn't give Jeremy a heads up. I'm looking to do also an extension in September. Am I able to voice that now, or would we be coming back for that?
You come back for it in September, yeah. Yeah. As you can tell, we don't need much
Gotcha.
lead time here to do that.
Understood.
So no questions for the public, so we close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And is there any questions from the board?
Nope,
Then I
sounds
would
merry.
Entertain a motion.
Move to approve
Please
the
join
app-
us if you can.
Move to approve the application for the extension of hours for the sale of alcoholic beverages on December 31st from 11 p.m. until 12 a.m. at Woods Hill Table located at 24th Commonwealth Avenue.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Hope you guys have a good evening tomorrow.
Good luck.
The next item on our agenda is the 2020 seasonal population increase estimate for Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission. Who's going to tee this up for us, young man?
Might as well. So, as part of our annual liquor license renewal, the state requires that we do a seasonal population increase estimate for the summer months. And so that form is attached in your packet. And basically, I've made contact with the town clerk and with the visitor center director, Beth Williams, and they are not aware of any seasonal population increase or how we would accurately make that estimate. Basically, my recommendation to the board is that we return the form to the ABCC with an estimate of no population increase.
Did you have a chance to talk with folks in Lexington?
So I spoke with somebody on the phone and left a message, but I
Didn't hear back.
yeah.
Has this been done annual? I don't remember
don't
this.
No, I
recall
don't
it ever
either.
being
Yeah,
done.
yeah.
Is this maybe a new requirement or something?
It seems like it because obviously this is my first year here, but if you guys, have made more depth and background here than me, so.
Maybe
I've never heard of
I've
it.
never done it.
What would you put in here?
No increase.
Zero.
Oh,
Either
okay.
zero
Oh,
or
so-
no known increase.
oh,
would be
okay.
my- yeah.
Right.
No, I think.
Oh, the
it's-
temporary resident, increased resident
I
population,
mean, I could
okay.
understand if we were on Cape Cod or something like
Yeah.
that. Oh, well.
I think it's meant as a benefit to those communities
Sure.
to be able to have like seasonal licenses. But for us, it might not be as applicable.
Well, now that we have this vibrant visitor center, maybe
Yeah.
we've triggered the,
If there are no other questions, then I would entertain a motion to complete this by entering the number 0.
I'm wondering if it might be more appropriate to say no known increase at this point?
It's okay with me. Read the motion as you would like it, and we'll fill it in.
Move to approve the 2020 annual license renewals as listed on memo dated November 27th, 2019.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
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 All right. So the next item on our agenda is review and approve 2020 town meeting warrant articles. I want to just preface it again by saying when we have an official responsibility later in January when the warrant has been certified, and it's our obligation, except for certain articles brought forth by the planning department and by zoning, or the planning board and by the ZBA, we have to approve the warrant articles that go to town meeting. Whether they're citizen articles or articles by any committee. So what we've been doing over the last 2 meetings that the board has had is with all the articles that we know are before us or have committees or citizens have asked us to sponsor or put on the warrant, we've just been voting to make sure they get submitted formally to the town before the warrant closes. Any debate or affirmative action or withdrawal of a motion by the select board will happen after January 10th when the warrant is formally closed. We won't take as a board formal positions on the warrants until after the public hearings. And for the new members of the board, we will go through every warrant article and we will decide whether to support it or not support it. But we're not doing that now. So an affirmative vote this evening is nothing more than indicating that we're going to make sure this warrant article gets submitted to the town clerk and will appear on the warrant that will come before us later in January. Okay? So I just want to be clear. It goes to a piece of correspondence that we had, I might as well mention it now, from Dory Keogh, where she was concerned about a particular warrant article and us voting. But I just wanted to indicate we're not voting to approve the article or support the article, but just make sure that it gets put on the warrant, and we'll deal with our approvals at a later date. So, having said that, there are a number that I just want to get affirmative votes from you folks on. We had talked about the 2 affordable housing and the 1 17-year-old vote warrant articles, and again, reminding everybody that if the legislature passes them tomorrow, then we will be voting to affirm the language in that bill. If they don't, we are required to reaffirm our support of those articles to resubmit them to the legislature. So tonight, there are 6 of them, two 17-year-old vote, and then 4 affirmative action ones. Affordable housing ones. So, is there any objection to
No, I think we should move them forward.
all of these?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Well,
yeah,
I really have to object to the tax increment financing.
we're not talking about that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're talking about the
Oh, the other- oh.
affordable housing,
Oh,
the 6 articles, the 4
Got
affordable
it.
housing ones and the 2
okay, sorry.
home rule petition ones. We'll be there in a second, for sure. So can you give us just a little motion to support all 6 of those articles then?
Okay. Move to reaffirm Articles 25 and 26 from the 2019 town meeting, to reaffirm Article 18 from the 2018 town meeting, to affirm the Senate Bill 2317 for the building permit surcharge, to affirm the Senate Bill Senate 2318 real estate transfer fee, and to affirm the House Bill from the House 663 allowing 17-year-olds to vote.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. And let's take them, since Terry raised the tax increment financing one, why don't we deal with that? We have 3 that we're going to talk about. Tax increment financing, one from the Pollinator Health Advisory Committee, and one on comprehensive sustainability and energy committee on expansion of fossil fuel infrastructure. All right, so the tax increment financing is, so as background on this, the Junction Village project that we took up a couple of years ago had in it a provision of paying the town a total of $75,000 in a combination that went, I think, $30,000 to Housing Corporation and $45,000 as a tax payment. A few weeks ago, Mr. Ohanian, who is in charge of the project, met with the town assessor to formally go through the process of determining what the tax liability would be. And it turned out that the tax liability, the best the assessor could do, was about, not remembering exactly, but about 2 times the amount that the Junction Village had in there for its overall payments to the town. So the issue there is the project becomes financially more tenuous, and there is this provision, which is a tax increment financing agreement, that if the town approves it, or the town meeting, the area is called an economic development zone, and because of that, its tax liability can be adjusted. And so there's an application to get filed that would be filed by Mr. Ohanian. And then this warrant article essentially authorizes the select board to execute the tax increment financing agreement. I've met with Mr. Ohanian, and we have fine discussion. The thing I told him that was, I thought, important if he was going to get support from me, I'm not speaking for the select board, was that however the financing works out, the project can't wind up giving the town less tax money than it had said in the proposal that we took to town meeting, and town meeting subsequently approved. So that's the warrant article. I've discussed this also with Liz Rusk, who's our regional housing person. Again, tonight, all we're doing is making sure that it gets submitted so that it is on the warrant. We're not voting our approval of this. We're not suggesting it will stay on the warrant. after the warrant closes, we will vote and the warrant and we can take action then. I will say for this and the fossil fuel infrastructure one, if we don't do it, they could simply be citizen petitions. As it would be the way forward. And my concern, not about these in particular, but if the select board takes an article off that is a citizen article, the citizens have the ability to simply go get signatures and it automatically gets on. But if that was done, it would be a special town meeting. Because there's
Wouldn't be included
notification.
in the warrant.
So if we said no to an article, the petitioner could go out and get the signatures, give it to us, and then if the signatures were legitimate, we would be required by law to have a special town meeting. And I would like to, if we could, avoid a special town meeting.
Right.
We're most likely going to have a special town meeting in the fall for the middle school project. So, I think this was a little bit unexpected, to say the least. I don't know, and I said at the time, I don't know why this wasn't done quite some time ago, so that, but nevertheless, it is what it is. So, what is our pleasure? Terry, you had an objection.
Right. Well, as you just said, we've been working on this project for 3 or 4 years, and it does seem kind of last minute to find this out. And we previously had another event that happened with this project that came in at the last minute, where it wasn't known that we needed a sewer hookup for the property until after the bid was submitted. And that added, I think, $500,000 to the project, if I'm remembering correctly. That when the bid came in,
What bid?
for this Junction Village project, that it originally did not know that it was lacking the sewer hookup. And that added money to the project.
I don't recall that
I don't recall
myself.
that at all.
Well,
That's correct
No.
at all.
We could ask
Oh,
Walter.
I might be mistaken. I'm pretty sure I remember that. All right. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. The other objection that I have is that we really don't have all the information yet.
Right.
There are 3 items on this, and the first one is the tax increment financing agreement, which is not yet in the town clerk's office. The second one, the EDIP, is, I think, also not there yet. So I just feel, I personally don't feel comfortable voting for this. And I do feel comfortable with the special town meeting if necessary, because, as you just said, we're having one probably in the fall. And if that's too late, I believe it would be possible, if a petition comes in right away, to have a special town meeting the same night as the annual. You have like a
I
special.
mean, inside of,
Yeah, if we had to. I definitely am not in favor of having an entire special town meeting in June, where we have to have police detail and everybody come out again and all that. But I think because we have these 2 options, if we did get a petition article, it would be doable. So I don't feel ready to vote for it at this time.
Susan?
I also feel that I just don't know enough to be able to make a decision on whether, just echoing what Terry said about the last minute nature of it, and just feeling generally uninformed on this whole process. And had you mentioned that we did this, the town did this for another project?
I think so.
Okay, so this hasn't been done by us for any other projects.
Linda?
Two thoughts come to mind, and one is, if we do go forward with this, I would really like to hear from Lane about his process in going through this. I did have a chance to do a little digging on the whole process in general, but I still would feel more comfortable if we heard from him. I am concerned, has anyone had a chance to talk to Carmen about schedule, the scheduling
of
about
it.
this? I know we do have the ability to accommodate a special
Town meeting inside
town
of town
meetings
meeting.
inside if we need to. So,
I am certainly not ready to vote my approval or support for this. I'm a little less concerned about including it in a warrant for that investigation, because we would do that, and I would certainly do that, because I agree with all three of those who've spoken about what we don't know, and that this is a new request for the town to go through. And we also haven't even heard from Walter. So that being said, I'm trying to remember now in my dusty memory what the additional price of a special town meeting is if it's held within, if there's anything.
there's
I
no
don't think there's
additional.
any impact.
Right.
But I don't know how we guarantee that it would be inside versus
Yep, I get it.
additional.
So, okay, so my thinking, I have two parts. My first thinking is the town voted for this project and committed a significant amount of money for it. If this isn't approved, then the project doesn't go forward. So this is something I think that needs to go in front of the town. Right? So what I'm going to suggest, I don't know how to do this exactly, but what I'm going to suggest is if we can develop a motion, a contingent motion, and the contingent motion would be that we would put this on, we'd submit this. We have until the 10th of January
Right.
to submit. So we would submit this article conditioned upon determining whether or not we we are within the time frame of having a special town meeting inside the regular town meeting if we do it by some certain date, and I will get a hold of the moderator and we'll figure that out. I know that's kind of convoluted, but
For whatever it's worth, we did that a number of times.
we've done it too.
Yeah,
I just don't recall,
Process.
if we do
I
it
think it's 14
January.
days for a
Yeah.
special, and
Yeah,
so up until 14 days
Right.
out from the annual, the board can, now by citizen's petition, it's a little different, but if the
Yeah.
board says the select board can call it, you can call it and pick that date at 7:01 or 7:05, or like you do for the public hearings here in the board.
But you
meeting.
have to, you have to open a warrant.
Yes.
And the warrant has to
Right.
be open for a certain number of days.
Right.
I don't know if it, for a special, it has to be open for a certain number of days. I just know that the warrant has to be distributed, I think, 14 days.
Right.
And the
For the
warrant,
meeting.
well, that's right, you have to have, the warrant has to be opened, and then it has to be
Right.
closed, and it has to
Right.
be out and about for a
Right.
certain amount of time
I think you
before.
have 35 or 45 days. You have more time for a special. The annual has a very long lead time, but the special, I'm pretty sure you have 35 days or 45 days, one of those. But
Okay.
I have a question about what you said. If this article does not go forward, you're saying the whole project will not go forward. I thought last week,
Well, I
talked
don't,
about-
all I can tell you is I've met with Mr. Rahanian, and that's what he told me.
okay, I thought I heard last week that there was another option of, and I'm not sure I really understand all of this, and that's one reason I want to hold off, but there's a 75,000 that includes the lease payment and the taxes. So that, I thought we talked last week that in theory, anyway, the lease payment could be $1 if the taxes had to be 75,000.
Yeah, but the amount that Lane estimated was, I think, around
150.
150.
Right, that's what we discussed. I
So
don't think
the
Sharon was
70
at the,
Huh?
because we discussed this at length at the last
Yeah.
select board meeting.
I thought it was 40 was the original estimate, and now he thinks it's 80.
No.
No.
Oh, it's
The
150.
payment that was in the budget that was presented to the town as part of our discussions was $75,000 would go to the town, and it would be broken up.
Right.
Sort of like this, 40 and 35.
Right.
But that's fungible,
Right,
right? But that was the entire payment to the town.
right.
And when Lane calculated the taxes, it came out that the tax payment that had to be made for this type of project and its economics was $150,000.
Okay.
And I'm hoping
we're
I'm
off by
cut some
half.
latitude that I'm
All
not
right.
exactly right on the 150, right? So from the Junction Village perspective, they were giving the town 75. The town figures out how it's going to use it.
Right.
And now the assessor's saying you have to give the town 150.
So this is a make or break thing. It's an $18 million project, and this bit is a make or break,
All I can do is tell you what I was told.
okay?
But again, to me, independent of support for this,
Right.
it's either going to go on the warrant because we put it on the warrant, or it's going to go on the warrant for special town meeting because a petitioner puts it on the warrant. It just seems to me to be a waste of time to,
And we can always pull if we go through the process and determine discomfort with our final,
well,
I'm
it's
not
just me,
suggesting- I'm
myself,
not suggesting we
I wouldn't
would.
pull it. Well, what could happen is when we
pull our
get the
support.
facts.
We
Oh,
could
yeah,
decide
we
that-
could
That's
vote
my point.
no
We're not
action.
taking it off, but we could say we're not in support of this.
Absolutely.
Well, I remember it coming up at the last meeting, and we were given a couple of pieces of paper, and I didn't think we had that much of a discussion about it at all. The TIF,
We didn't.
yeah.
Well, we just
okay.
discussed these numbers. I mean, the
Oh, yeah.
difference in the.
Okay, but
where the
I
benefit.
thought you said we had a lengthy discussion about it.
Well, I just
but-
remember discussing the 75 versus 150.
Oh, okay, I do
Yeah.
remember that, but not the,
So I don't know, my recommendation is we go ahead and get this on the warrant. If we decide we want to pull it, because when we look at the facts, it just doesn't go anywhere, or if we want it on the warrant and we want to vote no
Right.
on it, let's do it, but it seems just to go,
Does,
Do we have an example where we actually have pulled something from the warrant?
sure.
I remember some warrant article.
Remember the mothers out front had I don't remember exactly.
It
what
was
They had a proposal to do some energy efficiency activity, and Alice and I worked with them, and they agreed to pull it. And in lieu of that, we put together the Energy Futures Task Force.
task force.
So they agreed to pull it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well,
They
but
agreed
if
to pull
they hadn't agreed to pull it, then,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and similarly with Mark Hansen a couple of years ago
Right.
on the
On the
pollinator.
pollinator, that's where the Neonic Advisory Committee came from, or the Pollinator Advisory Committee came from.
Okay, good. Okay, I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
we have exercised that, and in
There's
fact,
been
we-
examples, I can't remember specifically, there was a warrant article 3 or 4 years ago that, on advice of counsel, it was, not legitimate somehow, I don't remember
Yeah.
the facts, that was pulled. So we can certainly do it,
okay, good.
but I'm not gonna want to, just so you're clear, I'm not gonna want to do this. I'm gonna want to get this on the warrant article and discuss it, and if we don't think we should support it, I think it should go to town meeting, and the town should decide. They put $2 million into this project, and to have us kill the project by simply not putting this warrant article in doesn't seem fair to the citizens who voted for this.
I don't see, this seems to me almost as if we are hindering our own discussion if we don't put this on the warrant now. I mean, I want to do the further further public process and discussion, which would be happening, I would assume, regardless of how it gets presented at town, in order to convince the citizens of its legitimacy. And I'm not questioning its legitimacy, I'm just saying, that would be part of the process, period. So this seems like we're doing exactly the opposite of what we were planning to do tonight, which is, do we let this paper move forward? Because that's the decision right now. It's not about whether or not this is good or bad.
Well, I have
I
a
agree
question
with you on
about that. If we put it on the warrant, are the select board the sponsors of the article? Like when we talked about the fossil fuel article, we were talking about who's going to sponsor it.
If we put it on, we would be the sponsor.
Okay. I guess that's the part I'm really not comfortable with. I think you're making a really good point that the town should be able to discuss it. But I think if it's really going to make or break the project, then it will come in as a petition article and the town will end up discussing it. But the select board won't be the sponsors in that case. And I guess I'm just more comfortable with that route.
I kind of feel like if $75,000 is going to derail, how many $1 million project?
I think it's 18 million, it was 17 million.
I think that's part of the discussion. I mean, I think that's a perfectly legitimate question on a multi-million-dollar, multi-year project for a long-term assisted living facility. $75,000 really kills the project. That's a good discussion. And I want to have it. All right, where are we? We've, I think, heard one another. Where are we on this? So I know where you are. All right, Susan, where are you? Where are you?
I think I want the opportunity for us to be able to have the right people in to talk further about this with us, and so I guess I'm prepared to have it go forward.
And you?
I agree. I'm prepared to have it go forward. And I'll reserve whether or not I would want to support it to have that conversation later.
Okay, I share that perspective, so I don't know what we have on our, even if it's on here as a separate motion.
Well, we have it listed as in the memo, so it's a,
So would you sort of move to,
Move to accept Article 20.
no, just
we don't know the
Oh,
number
sorry,
yet.
sorry, yeah,
It's
yeah. Move to approve the warrant article, approval of tax increment finance agreement to be placed on the warrant.
Second.
any last discussion? So all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye, nay?
Hey, whatever
All
we're
right,
supposed
so
to
the
say.
record will show it was by a 3-2 vote. Thank you very much. The next one, at least in my list here, is the article from the Pollinator Health Advisory Committee to determine whether the town vote to ensure that any new lease or lease agreements allocated by the town for agricultural retail use will prohibit the use of neonicotinoids. And again, we've kind of mentioned this. This was a warrant article a couple of years ago by Mr. Hanson that he withdrew in favor of forming this pollinator committee. Sarah Grimwood is the chair of that, and they've been working, and this is their warrant article. And this was a committee that the select board formed.
I've had, so go ahead.
Oh, just to clarify, this is on any new leased town land, but town property
Non-existing.
already
Already
doesn't.
yeah.
So it seems like it's consistent to me with what the town does on its own land.
I've had the privilege of being at multiple committee meetings as a liaison where Sarah has presented this. So I feel very comfortable in supporting this moving forward.
Terry?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it. I'm really glad that we had a committee and they've been working on it. So it's a lot more reassuring to know that than that it just, came up.
Linda, are you on the same
I'm
page
fine,
there?
yeah.
Would you tee it up for us, then?
Sure. I move to place on the warrant, the pollinator bill banning neonicotinoids. You've been waiting for me to have that opportunity. On any new leased town land.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the next is the article on prohibition of expansion of fossil fuel infrastructure for new construction and significant renovation. And on this handout that I have, it says submitted by the Comprehensive Sustainability and Energy Committee. Is that true? Is the committee?
The committee voted to sponsor if they were allowed, if we were allowed to, and if the select board would sponsor it itself.
Right, I've seen this article floating with many different authors.
But I believe your preference is that the select board sponsor it, is that correct? Okay.
That would be sort of normal.
Right.
Susan?
Well, I was happy to see get the communication from Alice after we had our last meeting with the inclusion of special consideration for affordable housing. Yeah, so I would support it.
Yeah, I'm ready for the select board to include this on the warrant.
Sure. I'm fully
Please,
comfortable.
please certainly entertain a motion.
Okay. Move to be placed on the warrant, the article prohibition on expansion of fossil fuel infrastructure for new construction and significant rehabilitation.
So second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? No. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I think that takes care of at least the warrant articles that we
We know of.
know. Right. Well, thank you. Thanks very much. Appreciate you coming. Next, discuss parking meter management.
Woo-hoo.
Mr. Chairman, I invited Chief O'Connor here to come discuss some of the newer initiatives that we're working on with regards to improving the performance of our parking management system, including our meters. And so I turn it over to the chief to talk about that.
Good evening, Chief.
Free to leave.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Select Board. My name's Joseph O'Connor, the town's Chief of Police. Before I get into this, as we come to the close of the year, I just want to recognize the work that my officers have done all year publicly and thank them, the officers and our public safety dispatchers. We've had a really good year. We've been recognized for the gold standard for traffic and a number of different awards, and detectives have worked in complex investigations throughout the year. So I just want to publicly thank them because, believe it or not, some of them do watch this meeting every week. So I did want to do that.
Well, I hope you will, on behalf of the board, extend our best wishes and gratitude. It's really a pleasure to live in a town that has such a caring and efficient police department. So every time you encounter one of your officers, they're polite, thorough, professional, get the job done, and you feel, like you've been well served. So
That's great. That's what we strive to do, and I'm thankful that I have an opportunity to lead such a great department. So parking, it's I know it's one of those subjects that.
so always lead with the good stuff.
That's right. And then, get it in and make sure the door's open so I can get out. But it's, parking, we talk about it, but parking is very important to the economic development of the town, economics and residents, quality of businesses, and sustainability issues as well. So back in 2012, going back that far, the town started working on the comprehensive plan of parking, and it's taken a number of years to implement different things. Masha Rasmussen, Director of Planning and Land Management, generally gives this presentation, and she has given me some notes to bring up to the board. But it just really is, as the town manager mentioned, a discussion on looking for feedback as well from the board of thoughts on what you are hearing in the community. I can tell you the good news is I'm not hearing as many complaints as we have in past years. The implementation of the meters, it was a little bumpy ride, and it still continues to be. And our main problem is cell service. The cell service in town, and I know the board has heard a number of different meetings about different aspects of it, and we've talked about the public safety part of it and so forth, but really what happens with the cell service is the communication. One of the important things when the parking management study was done, people were looking for different ways to pay, to be able to pay with credit cards, smartphones, and coin, and try to make that a good customer experience, use that term for people that are visiting the town. It has been a real challenge with the communication piece, and it continues to be. So back last year was how we're going to try to address that issue. In talking with Chris at the time, and we were able to decide that we were going to have a contract. The contract IPS parking meters is our vendor, and we got them to bring them in a contract to maintain the meters. Historically, the meters were a much simpler process to maintain, and the police officers were doing that even up to the very end when they were breaking down on a regular basis and jamming. We didn't think it was a good usage of our staff to be doing those types of repairs. So we entered in a contract with IPS in July. It took them a number of months to find the right person, get them trained. We're utilizing space on Knox Trail that was authorized for a repair shop. So we have a repair person in town on a daily basis, clearing the basic things like the blockages, but also taking meter heads that aren't communicating, getting them to a location so they can communicate, because we were losing a number of credit card transactions because they wouldn't communicate and not come back up when the meters would go down. So that was a real problem. We anticipate over the next few months, once we come out of the darkness of winter, because the winter actually plays a role on the charging of the meters as well, the amount of sunlight. It's kind of been enlightening to me to learn how these meters function and communicate. But comparatively speaking, with communities that have good cell service in their areas, where we're changing batteries on a regular basis of meters, the city of Boston, for example, which has extensive service, other communities, they're going 2 years before they change batteries out based on because of the quality of cell service. But on a public safety, I will just say it again, particularly in downtown here, not having cell service is an impact on public safety from my opinion as well. I know Chief Judge shares that same opinion. Since Marcia was here, I guess it was back in June of 2018, some of the things that were done, the pay by phone out in front of Concord Academy, meters along by the library, those things were changed. As I said, there were growing pains. We have the Crosby's lot. We're looking there. How can we? It's not always full. We're discussing how can we make that lot more attractable to people. We're talking about possibly putting in a pay station in that location, and we're in the beginning of discussion of that, so people could use that on a daily basis and fill that up. We think that helps not only infrequent commuters, but also some of the businesses who don't have full-time employees that could use those on a daily basis. Kai's Road parking lot, at one time there was discussions of putting pay stations or meters in there after the construction has been done. That is not something that is on our radar screen right now to bring to the board. We think that right now the parking is working out well. We're monitoring during the shopping season. We had a lot of activity. I think every day the center on this side was full, as well as in West Concord. West Concord, I'm happy to report, has much better cell service in the center there, and the meters are functioning a lot better there. So that's why you'll hear a lot of my talk about focusing on Concord Center, but they're working better over there. We're also working, I think Marcia was here last meeting, a couple meetings ago, talking how to incorporate bike stations and parking for people that are commuting biking. We think that fits right into our parking management, and we're looking to probably will come back sometime during 2020 with some slight modifications for the rules and regulations for you to adopt if we make any changes on the parking. Stowe Street has been parking lot across from the Emerson Annex. That's been cleaned up with some signage. We expect in 2020 or 2021 for that lot to be redone by CPW, as well as improvements in the lot across the street next to the umbrella for the library. And there's continued discussion about the library expansion and parking there. One thing Marcia did want me to bring up is that as of yet, we're still for wayfinding. There's been really no decision yet. There's been some proposals to the HTC on signage, but nothing has been adopted. And she's hoping that with Beth Williams in town, working on tourism and economic vitality, that be able to, again, bring that issue forward and hopefully bring something forward. As far as on the tourism piece, we're starting to work with Beth on identifying locations for buses that are visiting and where we can put those buses and how people that are tourists visiting the historical sites in town, but also how we can incorporate bringing them into the business districts and using that as part of the economic vitality in the area. And I think I hit any major points, and I'm happy to take questions.
Questions?
I have a couple. You didn't mention the Walden Street lot. I assume that's going to stay the way it is.
Right now, the Walden Street lot is right now going to stay the way that is. There was discussion of meters in there. We haven't been doing that. Have not decided to put meters in there or bring that proposal forward. We think things are moving. And really, one of the important things of the parking on the streets is to get that turnover, to get people to move people a little longer, use those locations. There's still some signage and punch list stuff that needs to be done in those lots. The things we are discussing is where can we add more charging stations in the future. They're getting utilized on a regular basis, particularly the library, Kai's Road, and the Walden lot. Those are being used, and over in the commuter rail over in West Concord.
And you had mentioned that the batteries, if you have a good cell service, can last up to 2 years. How often do you have to change out the ones here?
And it's depending on the location.
Yeah.
Hubbard Street, for example, they're pretty regularly, sometimes monthly there. And again, they're contingent on weather, usage.
Sunny.
There's a number of different factors. The weather, humidity. There's a number of different things that are playing into those communication issues.
Thank you.
What happens, just so that I understand it, if there's not good communication, it's constantly searching.
Right.
Just like your phone.
Right.
And that's what's drawing them down.
Yep.
Other questions for you, Chief? Yes.
Yeah, I have some comments and a question. I agree with a lot of what you said, that it's not a good use of officers' time to be walking around dealing with meters. So I'm glad to see that change. And I'm really glad to see the work on the bike stations, the charging stations, the bus lot. Also, the big storm that we had December 1st. I think Public Works did a really great job of clearing, and that might be why we have fewer complaints right now. I think one of the big problems was getting from the meter to your car. And so since they did such a great job clearing, that's been less of a problem. And my question is, does this parking program make money, lose money, or break even, would you say?
Depends.
Okay,
So it's meeting the costs, the officer, the things that it's used for, striping, signage. So it, I'd have to check with John. Well, finance might have a different idea of what we're meeting budget.
right. I remember talking to Tony Legabo a few years ago, and that's basically what he said then. And I'm just wondering if we didn't have any parking meters, it's not like the town would be losing revenue, right? Because the revenue that we're taking in is paying for the program, right? So we'd probably break even if we didn't have the meters.
I don't think so. So one of the good stories of the meters program, the way it's working, some of the adjustments in the hours in the business districts, going from the 2 to the 3, is the number of tickets being written has actually gone down. So I think that is also a satisfaction issue with the residents. So I don't think that taking the meters out, it's more time consuming to enforce that way with signs. A lot of places that have taken meters out have gone back to them. I know you do hear from some people that places don't have meters. Lexington has meters. Other communities have
Right,
meters as
some
well.
do, some don't, and some that don't have seen a big increase in the economic vitality because people don't have to worry about meters, but that's a different conversation. I was just kind of curious whether we're making money, losing money, or sounds like we're about breaking even with it.
Remember, Terry, that it's not just the
Right.
officer, but the money is used for striping. So that, if we didn't have that revenue, that would have to be paid for out of general funds. And
And setting aside revenue, I think the important thing about meters is that they also help facilitate turnover.
Right.
they're not there to make money, they're there to manage
Traffic.
Right, and if you don't have meters and you have a desirable location like downtown Concord, people people may park there and just leave their car in front of a business
Right.
all day.
Right. And there used to be a way that someone would like put a chalk mark on the tire. And does anybody ever do that anymore?
I believe, I'd have to, it was a while ago, but it was in the last year. One of the courts struck that down as a practice that you could not do that. But you did mention about the use of personnel. We did have a civilian parking enforcement person part-time working. And I can tell you, being the meter officer of that person is a very difficult job. And we reposted that job. The person decided to go do something else. Parking is something that people get very passionate
Yeah.
about.
Right.
So you feel the need to have these new lots? You're looking into maybe having meters at the Crosby's lot and some of the other lots? You feel the need to increase the number of pay stations?
Well, the people pay monthly currently at that lot. So they get a monthly pass.
Right.
So what we're discussing is how can we make that more, it's being underutilized, how can we make that more convenient for people?
Okay.
And use that
So
space.
that the folks that could use it could be itinerant commuters versus committing to a monthly pass.
That's what people had mentioned about the bus
The Yankee bus,
bus that goes there twice a day, and people were saying, well, you can't park all day unless, you have to have a monthly pass, so.
Right. This goes into the transportation discussion that we're putting together right now.
Great.
Because obviously,
Okay.
so Linda, do you
No, I think we
no, I was just curious as to, and I think we just touched on it. When I do my irregular, but certainly holiday-based shopping in Concord Center and West Concord, I always ask all of the retail managers that I go into whose stores I go into, how they view the parking meters. And I have, this year in particular, I've heard nothing but appreciation for the turnover or the traffic that's come through, and certainly not a pushback on the meters, and certainly not even an identification of the meters as a problem. So,
It's interesting.
I mean, I think the free 12 minutes is a really ingenious way of
Yes.
not
Yes.
making people feel like they're being taken advantage of.
You've got to run in.
Yeah, but I think one of the points I want to make though is, the chief mentioned our new vendor that came on in July, and this is something that I went to a meeting with, almost a kickoff meeting with the vendor, and it became immediately apparent that we were going to get a much better performance out of our existing system and our existing equipment than we had been just by virtue of having this vendor here. And that's where I think the big story is. We're spending some money on some human capital to improve the performance and the investment the town's already made. And I think that's all going to unlock greater potential, as the chief alluded to. So one of the reasons why I knew the board would hear this is that it's a really smart investment that I said Chris made the decision, I didn't, but it was a really smart investment, and I think the system performing better, the existing system performing better, I think has resulted in a higher level of satisfaction, which speaks to it's a well-designed system. It has a performance issue because of the cell service, but other than that, when it's working, it works well.
One more important point, Stephen, I remember, brought back to my memory, it came up in the meeting that he asked for, is with this person in town, we're able to access additional data, and we're going to be able to, hopefully in the future, look at what are the hot areas that we're getting a lot of cars parked, and where aren't we, why is that reason, be able to do a little better analysis when we're looking at different issues.
Yeah, we did say that, didn't we?
And just very quickly, do we have a timetable on the umbrella lot? I've just forgotten when that's.
For reconstruction? I don't believe there's a timetable.
Not
on it.
yet. Okay.
No,
Okay, and the negotiations with the Crosbys, that is just beginning or almost done, or?
well, we have the spaces there, it's a discussion for the group, and Marcia just recently brought that up, so there hasn't been a final decision on that. But we'll bring that back to the board when that happens.
And are there locales that you're thinking about for bus parking?
Well, we want to talk. We want to talk to some of the businesses as well. We have, when the reconstruction of the Kai's Road lot, there's two spots there. We want to really get it. Beth is working to get what the groups are that are coming in, find out how long they're going to be here and standing by. We're thinking there's some opportunity along Lowell Road possibly, and maybe some other locations. We don't want to encroach on any other existing parking, but we want to also be thoughtful of the abutters of where those buses go.
Well, thank you very much, Chief. Greatly
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Happy New Year.
The next item on our agenda is the annual license renewals. And I'm told that I have to read this.
So I don't know if you have to read it. The reason it's on the agenda this week is because Kari had said that it would be best practice to put the licenses that we're going to renew.
So the motion could just be as reported on your memorandum dated, whatever.
Yes, very similar to last week. This is just the final batch of license renewals for 2020. So all of the licenses that were in your packet that are on the agenda, their applications are complete, and everything looks good on our end. So I would recommend that the board renew them.
Right, is there any discussion of this? Seeing none, then Linda, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve the 2020 annual license renewals as listed on memo dated December 27th, 2019.
Or a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Committee liaison reports. Susan?
I have two committees to report on. One is the middle school building committee met on Thursday, December 19th, and are trying to get our arms around a couple of things. One is the project charter, which is sort of can change over time, but it's a reference document for what the priorities are for the project. And to start to look at numbers, taking into account that there's been a request for a larger than you would normally have auditorium in the middle school to accommodate town meeting. And also there'd been a request by athletic groups to have a larger gym. Don't know where those will end up on the priority list as we go through and try to get the central goal, of course, is to create a learning environment for middle school students that is sustainable and meets the needs of this century's learning, which isn't the case with Peabody and Sanborn. So there's a lot of pieces involved, and I would urge you again to check on the CPS website. There is a tag for the middle school building committee. You can find a lot of information on there. The other meeting that I didn't attend, but I watched the tape today, was the planning board. 4 hours.
The marathon.
The
planning.
marathon planning board meeting. And the board made a recommendation on 1440 Main Street that was contingent upon, that would go to the ZBA, contingent upon, there are 3 things that they mentioned. One was the impervious surface and wanting to decrease that either by maybe making 2-car garages, 1-car garages, or making more duplex or triplex, having the same number of units but different configuration. Another was a 10 to 15-foot wildlife corridor that would go, if you're facing the property, there's the park in the front, that would go from there up to connect to the conservation land in the back. And then the third thing was that there not be any fossil fuel use in that construction. Then they also worked on wording for the warrant articles. One of them was allowing a grocery store no more than 10,000 square feet, and most of the public comment was concern about that because of traffic and everything else, so they are not going to move that article. And then they fine-tuned the wording on their, I think, 10 zoning articles, the accessory dwelling and the,
Right.
so it was a very packed meeting.
Thank you. Linda?
I have no meetings since the last one.
All right. Terry?
I have nothing with the holiday schedule.
Okay. Jane?
Well, I have quite a few, actually.
Yeah. How'd you guys get on?
I have the NRS, the Natural Resources Commission, which was relatively uneventful. Not that those who went in front of the NRC were uneventful, but nothing particularly out of the ordinary. Although I did mention that I followed the pollinator committee, who was at every single one of my committees, and part of every update. So the NRC, we discussed that. The Ag Committee also discussed the pollinator update, as well as the impact of the Millbrook, the discussion and the publicity around Millbrook's, the Millbrook Tree Farm, or the Millbrook agricultural space, and their Christmas season, which, because it was highly publicized by multiple pieces stemming from an Ag Committee discussion, had the impact of initially selling out Millbrook, but leaving everybody else with a lot of stacked trees. That leveled its way through, but I think the Ag Committee took under advisement that they have more power than perhaps they had acknowledged, and using that needs to be thought through. And then the White Pond Advisory Committee is working on its recommendations to the Select Board. We had a long discussion over the draft plan, which I won't share now because the result was to do a more specific set of recommendations. Their committee report initially was a wonderful read, but it wasn't as structured as I think we could benefit from. However, and this follows through NRC discussions, it follows through a number of discussions. and it comes through in the Munich discussion, which is the impact of fertilizers on on both the aquifers in town as well as the water bodies, such as White Pond. And there was robust discussion over the use of the fields the town now has under conservation restriction, and whether those fields would be, what kind of farming practices would be coming to those fields, and then therefore what kind of pesticides use and runoff issues. And there was also increasing concern over the impact of the Sudbury, the large Sudbury development on the far side of the pond, which, regardless of which way the water flows, will have an impact on aquifers, and certainly the construction alone will have impact on the pond. So that'll be an interesting report when we do get it. And then finally, the HGC met on the 19th and discussed at length a project that's come to them a number of times at 399 Lowell Road in the Barrett Farm Historic District. I think we'll continue to see that one percolate
Yep,
through.
I suspect you will. Thank you. I had too quickly, I had chair's breakfast on the 18th, nicely attended, always a very informative meeting. And then I met with the joint school committee on December 18th. The important things there was they approved the school budgets. And I think they had a split vote on whether to go forward with the parking. And I think they're going to revisit it again tonight. And so that's that. For miscellaneous correspondence, first in the finance department received Distinguished Budget Presentation Award by the Government Financing Officers Association. The billionth time in a row probably they've done this. So congratulations to all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
We had two in additional correspondence. I mentioned one earlier from Dory Keyhole, concerned about the tax increment fairness proposed warrant article, and the other was an email from Beth Davis, who was concerned about a freedom of information request that she had made to the town, and I don't think she thought she got a good response from that. Lastly, I would just report that we had a little photo shoot out here at the Holiday Tree to send a video and a picture to our friends in Denai.
Oh, nice.
I've forgotten what day that was exactly, but it was last week. Friday, yep, so that was very nice. So committee appointments. We have no nominations.
Correct. Move to appoint Marcia Rasmussen as the planning representative per the committee charge, Jennifer Truneman of 63 Cedar Way and Jan Turnquist of 106 Kenny Lane to the Economic Vitality Committee for terms to expire April 30th, 2022. Melinda Shumway of 365 Garfield Road as a HDC Associate Member to the Historic Districts Commission to serve the remainder of a full term set to expire January 1, 2021. Rebecca Lamatre of 3 Abbott Lane to the Historical Commission to serve as an associate member for a term to expire April 30th, 2021. And Jeffrey Walton of 42 Buckmeister Drive to the West Concord Advisory Committee for a term to expire April 30th, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Very well. Are there any public comments? All right. Next, we will be entering into an executive session for the purpose of discussing complaints brought against an employee pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A1. Linda, would you please?
Don't we have to adjourn this meeting first?
We do.
You do. Executive session not to return to.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Move that the board go into executive session to discuss complaints brought against an employee and to consider what action to take on such complaints pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A1, not to return to regular meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Ms. Bates?
Aye.
Mr. Lawson?
Aye.
Ms. Hotchkiss?
Aye.
Ms. Ackerman?
Aye.
Ms. Escobedo, myself, aye.
Thank you, Happy New Year, and good night.